All right. Well, here we are finally at the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010. This will basically officially close out our run of A Nightmare on Elm Street finally. Yes. So with this one, it's this. I would say that when I first saw this one, this was like probably like right before um I had finally like really started to get more appreciative and into a lot of these older run of uh, slasher film, Friday 13th, Halloween, all that stuff. So this one I went into actually like, hoping it would be pretty good. I mean, as with anyone, it's like, yeah, you get a remake finally coming out again of something that's classic, especially when you have a guy like Robert Englund who really established that character the way that he did. It's very big shoes to fill, so of course, that's already, a big question mark all in all. But still, I had hopes that going into it, that they would actually do something pretty badass with this. And, the results are typically what you expect going into something like this. It's definitely right off the bat, I wouldn't say it's as good as like the Friday 13th remake, which again with that property, it's I would say it's easier to execute a better film as opposed to this one when you have a character with a personality and has more distinct, ideas behind them and all of that stuff. So but it's
And
but
Jason doesn't talk.
yeah, exactly the point. Yeah, I mean it. Jackie Earl Haley, he actually the guy who played Rorschach in the Watchmen film, and various other things.
Oh, I thought he was familiar. Okay.
Yeah, he very solid actor. He really is. He's a very good actor. I mean, he did a great job as Rorschach and stuff like that. So if a guy you would think could pull off, it would be him. But at the end of the day, I mean, the results still weren't that great. Most of it because of perhaps, writing and such things. But just to, what did you think coming out of it initially?
Um, what stood out like a big red clown nose was the way the face looked. It
Yeah.
was like a solid mask. It didn't, it wasn't like just kind of some prosthetic on the skin and it didn't move like freely. It was just the look of it and it the fact that it didn't like wasn't
Hmm.
moving like regular skin. It just
Well, see, the
ugh.
thing was with this one is that what they had tried to do, they tried to go for a more like actual burn victim look, as opposed to the slightly more exaggerated look of Freddy himself. That's what they were actually going for, so that's why it appeared that way, and so it didn't really like have a particular like standout way about it so much. You have a little bit of a gash here that he has and stuff like that. And in some shots it looks better than others, but yeah, for the most part it just didn't really translate well for this character. I will say, what did you think of the voice though? It's definitely a much deeper voice. I mean,
It was weird.
Robert Englund's voice was always you could tell when you heard his like regular Freddy voice that in the films they already altered it a bit to sound a little bit differently, which worked. And here I don't think the voice is it's not bad really. I mean, I do think it sounds kind of badass. It just for this iteration of Freddy, like I said, just the combination of things, it just didn't quite work so much. I would say is the main thing, but I didn't love or hate the voice necessarily, but I thought it was pretty decent though. So.
No, it wasn't like a horrible film. It wasn't, a huge piece of crap through and through.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was really weird, but I guess he did well with what he had.
Yeah, because like I mean, yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, it's definitely not on him so much. Like I said, because he really is a very good actor and not a bad choice per se. It's just the overall execution that just didn't really do him many favors.
Well, he definitely made it like super creepy, especially in the latter half of the movie with
Yeah, I
more
mean, he
of
definitely
the
had a creepiness factor, that's for sure. He definitely brought a nice essence, but like I
yeah
said, it's just,
with the creepy stuff with the kiddos that I don't
I
particularly
mean,
want to mention by name.
well, yeah, I mean, especially with YouTube, you gotta be careful with certain
Yeah.
things that you say. But so, I mean, yeah, with that, I mean, it is very much, uh, not like a shot for shot remake, but there's definitely a lot
No,
of
that
reminiscent
I did notice
key
those
moments
shots.
throughout for sure from the original film. Some films may either stray too far or do too much, like the Halloween remake. The first half completely different, second half damn near shot for shot in a lot of ways. Friday 13th, I mean, that's very much like a mishmash of the first four. This is very much it takes pretty much most of the key moments from the original, but kind of blends them together in its own way, kind of like that.
It had like two, at least two, I think three that stood out. I'm like, yeah, that's a,
Yeah, they
just
had
like the
they had the
original.
bathtub thing with the claw. They had him coming out of the wall, which and that's one thing too was that the one of the biggest complaints about this film, and which yeah, rightfully so, is the CGI. It's pretty bad, especially with the scene where he's coming out of the wall and stuff like that, and how much like the original was praised for its practical effects, like the original room where Tina is being thrown around the room, how they literally had an entire room like on a giant like turntable type, like it would just turn, and so they would film it that way to make it seem like she's actually crawling up the wall and stuff. And so when you look at this one, it's just so much more exaggerated, and it just goes to show like how the practical effects really made that film what it is. And you see this one, you're just like, okay, if you're gonna do CGI, at least do it well.
Well, I do wanna give credit to the part in the latter half where she is in the dream world, Nancy, and she's like going down that hallway, and then it like
Yeah, all the
is the
blood.
blood, and then is sucked down into the bed or whatever.
Yeah,
I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah, that didn't look too bad. And he uttered the lines like, "How's this for a wet dream?" Which is the
Yeah.
callback. Which is a callback to part four, if you recall, when he was drowning the kid in the waterbed. That's actually a
Oh.
recycled line, if anything. But he did have a couple ones that we haven't heard before, like when he killed the one guy that was in jail and everything, and he gave him like, where he's like, "Oh God," he's like, "No, just me." And stuff like that. And the whole line with the whole like, oh yeah, when the heart stops beating, the brain can remain active for well over 7 minutes. We still have 6 more minutes to play and shit like that. Like he utters some pretty good lines on his own as well.
Yeah, but it still is. I mean, like, I'm conflicted here because of I guess, the spin they took with it, with the
I mean, a lot of people, the problem people had too was like, yeah, this is like almost playing up Freddy could have been innocent and stuff, which I mean, by the end, they basically say, no, he kind of wasn't. So it's like, and it's been alluded to in the original, like there's some stuff like from the original that was kind of cut out and stuff to where maybe always seemed alluded to where he could have been more, a little bit more of a child predator per se. But in this one, they play that one up a little bit more. So some
it
people were kind of like, I
went
don't
like,
know, maybe, and also at the same time him maybe being innocent, I don't know. It's like
no, they definitely kicked down that door, uh, almost like fully, and
yeah,
yeah, it was really, so some of the lines really hit, and it was like, ew.
yeah. I mean, like I said, the vibe of the film, the style, like again, it does well for the Freddy character because you want him to be as creepy as possible, but at
Yeah,
the same time it's just like
that's a different kind of creepy.
you would say probably the best balance was probably like say Dream Warriors, where it had just enough of a good blend of like the fun Freddy and the more creepy Freddy. And so
Yeah, creepy like regular
especially
old horror
yeah,
though.
especially like when he went into like very MTV territory, some would say he's
Yes.
like with part five, part six, where it just shit went flying off the rails. So it's like, well, with all these horror films, we can kind of root for a guy that goes after teenagers, that just that takes their life and stuff like that. But you can't really root for like, someone who's maybe a more of a child. Like it's like no, not really.
No,
It's
that
definitely not the fun for it for sure. It's just like
it's
yeah,
not, that's the wrong kind of creepy.
exactly, yeah,
You don't want to be that kind of creepy.
yeah. But again, it depends on like I said how far back you're trying to take Freddy to like the more creepiness or more of like that. It's just a weird balance you kind of have to find with that. Like I said, it's just with that character, but anyway, it's just yeah. So yeah, so Nancy's played by Rooney Mara, who's been in various other things like the girl with the dragon tattoo with Daniel Craig and stuff like that. And I mean, and again, that's someone who's known as a is a solid actress, but in this film, she's just kind of like, she just kind of, in a sense, for lack of a better term, yeah, sleepwalks through this film in a way. Like, she doesn't really offer much that Heather Langenkamp didn't really offer. Even though I would say Heather Langenkamp got better throughout the films, like in Dream Warrior, she was definitely better, and by New Nightmare, I would say like she's actually really, really solid. But but yeah. So how did you think about her as Nancy? Did you really like her at all? Did she do anything for you, or?
Um, I'm trying to think if I really had like a, an attachment or felt any sort of way for any of them. I mean, I guess I kind of like that guy at the end. You know,
Quentin,
yeah.
because he's like basically the Glenn role Johnny Depp was in that one.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say
okay.
he's probably the best. He was probably the best of, well, except for
Well,
the one.
no, because the one guy that went to jail, that
Yeah,
was the Johnny Depp character.
no, he was the. Remember in the original, you had the boyfriend character who was in the bed with Tina, who was
Yeah,
framed.
that was the
No, Johnny,
one.
no, because Johnny Depp was Glenn. That was kind of like Nancy's boyfriend, the one at the end that
Oh,
gets sucked into the bed. That was
I
Glenn.
thought I thought he was the I thought Johnny Depp was the one that was in the vision when girl was getting killed and then went to
No,
jail.
no. Johnny Depp was the one that got pulled into the bed by the end and stuff like that. When he was like, talking to Nancy on the phone across from the houses and stuff. That other guy was the boyfriend that was, like I said, arrested by Nancy's father, and then he got hung in the jail cell by Freddy.
Oh,
So
okay,
yeah, even though they can't,
okay.
yeah, they did switch their names around. Like he's not Glenn, he's Quentin, and the other guys.
Oh no,
So
I
they,
don't care if they switch their names around.
yeah,
I
I
was
know,
just like, oh,
yes.
okay, I thought Johnny Depp was the other guy,
Hmm.
but yeah, I guess they're all right. I mean, I didn't really know anybody except for Kellen Lutz in the in the beginning,
Hmm.
very first kill. Um,
Like Katie
so
Cassidy, I know he's basically the Tina role. The one boyfriend, yeah, who was arrested. I've seen him in things. I don't know him, like his name particularly, but like Katie Cassidy, like I would say that the first like 20 minutes of this is actually pretty solid. Like with her, like some would say that felt like she should have been like the main star because she actually brought the most to it and actually did. I felt like I would probably agree with that. That she probably would have been the better person to follow throughout this
the
film.
blonde girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And I would even say that her destiny is it wasn't it's like yeah, it was a more uh like harsher recreation of the original, but it wasn't terrible. Like it didn't have a lot of like
no.
CGI, like the way like you really felt like it's just like damn, just slamming her ass against the wall, like bam, 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 and then the
Yeah.
cut at the end was actually pretty good. Like you felt that deep slices like and then just blood everywhere, and then she just falls. That actually I don't think was too bad. Like the way I was like, okay, I can give you that one at least. At
You
least.
know, freaky side note. I had the hyper realistic dream handful of. Oh, it's been a while now. A dream where something like that happened, but it wasn't Freddy that did it to me.
Mm.
And I swear I felt that. It was just it was so bizarre. It was the weirdest
Mm-hmm.
feeling I ever felt. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, yeah, the kills like the beginning in the diner and stuff like that, like the kills as far as like when he just shoved the knife into his neck and he's just slicing it across, you can kind of feel that a little bit. You're just like, okay, yeah, that is pretty intense. So the opening itself wasn't too bad. It
No.
starts you off pretty decently. It's just like as it goes on, you're just kind of like,
You're not
hey,
real. You're
I'm
not
not,
real.
yeah, I'm not really,
Bitch, yes I am.
not sure if I'm into this or not. I don't know. Like even after this watch is, I don't. I don't know if I can say I necessarily just hate it again because the general look and tone. If it just wasn't for some of the shoddy CGI that just really sucks you out of it, it really does when you see it so much and you're just like, I could probably get into this a little bit more. It's just,
It was
but it's also
definitely
just
the
kind of
wall thing. I
It's
don't know
also
if
just
anything
kind
else
of
stood out for me.
yeah. It's also just kind of mundane as well. You're just kind of going through. You're just like, I don't know, man. Something's just not clicking fully. I mean, the guy that directed this was a guy who just I think did just some music videos or some shit and stuff like that. So you can kind of see like whether like okay, but I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, there's a big difference between a music video and a movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could
I
definitely
mean,
bring
people
some
just sing and
style,
dance, and that's
but
it. But in a
I mean,
movie,
we've seen some
there's more
direct. I
to
mean,
it.
I've seen some directors that transition from certain things, or maybe
Oh
first time.
yeah,
Like
but
every now and again it works, but here, and I don't even think he even from what I remember. I don't know. I mean, he might not have even given that much of a shit when he was doing this film in the first place, but regardless, it's like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. So yeah, so the kills by themselves were again not actually that bad. As far as, you know, the gore factor and stuff. Like, again, the kid that was in the jail cell, he just kind of just shoves his like glove through him, and you just see the effect. And again, not too bad as far as the kills by
No.
themselves, but again, just storyline wise, like you have all the other supporting actors like Clancy Brown here as the one father of Quentin, and I was like, okay, if you're gonna have someone in an Elm Street film like this, like Clancy, a guy like Clancy Brown would actually be pretty.
Yeah,
I just wish they kind of done a little bit more with them, if
it's been a
anything.
minute since I've seen him. I'm like, yeah, I know that guy.
Like maybe he should have just been Nancy's father as like the cop or something, to have him a little bit more prominent or something like that. I feel like that would have probably added a little bit more. But it's like in the flashback scene, I want to go into that when they actually burn Freddy, like they're chasing after him. That scene by itself also, I don't think is that bad. And I know there are still the complaints, like, you know, alluding to the fact that maybe Freddy is innocent or whatever. But the scene itself, I was like, I actually kind of enjoyed seeing that a little bit. You know, just it added a little bit of something. You know, at least it tried
It
to.
was pretty cool how they went from the kid and he was trying to do the swim meet thing, and then like it's like pulled down, and then like comes up in that other pool that
Yeah,
into
like,
the
I mean,
dream sequence,
some of
you
the
know.
dream
So
transitions, you know, were actually done pretty well. It's just, again, just the overall
yeah, because that's like
execution,
an
just some
easy
writing
music
stuff.
video sort of
It's just
thing that
like
I've
even
seen.
when she's in the
So
classroom and everyone just like turns to dust instantly, like she just,
that
and it's
was
just like,
cool.
and he's
This
at the chalkboard and he's just like, and just it, like again, it had its moments. It had some good style to it, but just overall the writing and just the way everything plays out is a little bit more mundane as opposed, like, with everything else surrounding it. Just, I don't know. Like, it does some things well, other things, mm, damn well not so well. So I don't know. That's pretty much the best way I could. Anything else particular that stood out to you, or any?
um oh no, I think I already covered it. It was definitely the wrong kind of creepy Freddy. No knock against the guy. Um, they weren't horrible actors per se. Um, I mean, Kellen didn't really have a big role, but it
I'll
was
be
pretty cool. And
I'll
like I
be
already said, the scene in the hallway with the blood, I thought that was really cool. So
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't think Kellen was that great of an actor to begin with.
I didn't say he was great, but I mean, like, if you gave him a little bit more, then I would have been able to make a better assessment.
Honestly, like, well, in the beginning of this, he actually wasn't that bad. But everything else I've seen
No,
him in, even like on interviews and stuff, like, dude, this guy is like the definition of a fucking meathead. This guy. I don't know, but that's just me. Anyway, but yeah, like, you have again just a like really solid cast, great actors, all this stuff, but the material itself just was not up to snuff for what this should have been. You know, I feel like they concentrate too much on trying to do stuff with the original, and like they had the idea of micronaps they added to this, which, I mean, I think adds like a fair little element that you could play around with, like when she's in the store and she's seeing like the flashes of like Freddy walking at her, but she's like partially awake, partially not, and so like stuff like that. Again, pretty decent. It's just they really should have just sharpened some things up a bit. CGI, just overall story and plot, but it definitely had some bright spots where I saw the potential and what they could have done with this, and so
yeah, I'd say the standout was the bloody hallway thing.
yeah, yeah,
That was like the best part.
yeah. So all in
And
all,
her being thrown around. That was actually pretty cool. Not like the original with the practical bit, but
yeah, yeah.
it was pretty
It
good.
wasn't like as offensively bad as like the
No.
CGI wall, like when he comes
Yeah.
out of that,
Yeah,
because they
that
did that
was.
practically. Like, I forgot, like he had some sort of material. He just like literally just pressed his face out against it and all that
Yeah, it was
stuff.
probably like latex or
Yeah,
something.
and that CGI, it was just that bad. It really was. It's so damn bad
I've
how bad
seen
that
some really
looked.
bad CGI.
You know, again, which is a shame because I saw some spots where they like you could have really have done better. But I'm like, just really, it's like of all the things like that really takes you out of it. But yeah, so all in all, I give it probably like a 2 out of 5, for merely for what little bit of good you can see in it, and for some decent stuff. His performance, like I said, is the look may not be the best, but he again did the best with what he was given, and I mean, like I said, he brought it to a certain degree, and so yeah. So for what good there is in this, like I can enjoy that for what it is. So that's probably about where I put it. So, but it's not
Yeah.
great. It's definitely not that rewatchable for sure. I would
Yeah,
say.
I literally was just about to say, I don't know that I want to rewatch it again as much as I would say maybe like the Saw movies or something. I can rewatch that more than although I'd rather rewatch this remake than Seed of Chucky. I still would rather watch
I'm sure
anything
most people
except
would
for
honestly if they
Seed of
had to
Chucky.
choose. I mean, yeah, I'd be.
To this day, every time, I'm like, no, I'd rather.
Again, each one of these
Ugh.
franchises has at least those one or two films that you just know. I'm just like, damn, I cannot watch that shit again. I
There are
really
so many
can't.
things I'd rather do than rewatch that movie.
Yeah, yeah. You're certainly not the only one, but
I detail it, but then I might get in trouble with the powers that be.
mm, yeah. Well, I mean, so yeah. So overall, as far again for remakes, this is I would say the hardest to get right. So like it's
Yeah,
and especially
I like
because
the Friday the 13th one. That was actually pretty good
I would say of all the
as far
remakes
as remakes. Yeah.
plus the Child's Play remake, which we'll get to, I would say it's even worse than that.
Mm.
Because that Child's Play remake is actually kind of surprising in certain ways. We'll get to that,
Well,
but
the show is decent enough so
yeah,
far, all
yeah. I
things
mean, because I know
considered.
that the Wes Craven's estate they have the rights and stuff like that, so they're still I guess trying to find some way to bring it back, and so I guess we'll see what happens eventually. I don't know, and just to fill those shoes, I mean.
Mm.
I don't.
Those are big shoes.
Yeah. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. But this definitely was not it. So anyway, yeah, that'll do it for this review. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.